I'm at Hobsonville Point with the new Smartmotion midCity step-through bike. This is an urban bike, and it's a revision and enhancement of the classic e-city and e-urban bikes that Smartmotion have become known for, and really suppose famous for in New Zealand and beyond. It's a whole lot more modern. It's a mid-drive motor now. So it's sitting in there. The motor is made by Dapu. It's really very compact. Dapu is their supplier of motors. Pedigo also use Dapu motors. It's quite nice. It's got a reasonable amount of torque. It's very smooth. Makes similar sorts of noises to the hub drive. About the same sort of noise and about the same kind of noise profile. What's changed now about this bike is that it has a different sense of balance and ease of riding. The old torque sensor ones, and by the way this one also has the same switchable torque sensor and cadence sensor feature that the Pacer had. You can either have power up there, which is the cadence sensing mode. You change it by a double tap of the power button, so now it's on cadence sensing, or you can switch it back to torque sensing. If you're just wanting the bike to pretty much ride itself and not put much effort in, then the cadence sensor is nice. Otherwise the torque sensor allows much better control and puts the speed control in your feet, rather than having different kind of speed levels that it just goes to. The part selection of the bike has gone a notch up. The forks by Suntour are much nicer. The graphics and look is very stylish. The brakes are hydraulic now, Tektros, and they are really quite superb. And the display, as you've seen, is quite nice and got a lot of useful information. Not that dissimilar to the old one, but it is kind of nice. Battery still on the back, on the carrier. What that does do is make the bike feel a little bit tippy when you're maneuvering it around, not under power, but I wouldn't say that's a real negative. It is just a feature of most step-through bikes. Suspension seat post, really comfortable, and they've put on nice Schwalbe big bend tires. They're quite wide, and which makes for comfort and good traction. And also when you're crossing those little things on there are cracks in the pavement and things like that, it gives you a much better feeling of security, and the bike doesn't get sort of buffeted around by those little bumps and things. So I say well done to Smartmotion for that. The front chainring is a vast improvement on other things that they've used in the past, which have been kind of generic mild steel things. This is by one of their sister companies, Lecky, who are well known in the sort of modders market for their bling ring, and it's a nicely machined device with a bit of a chain retention there. It looks like a narrow wide tooth profile, so you're not going to throw your chain off too easily. There's a chain guard here to keep your clothes out of the chain, which is a nice touch. It's also got shift sensing on the motor, so you don't get kalunk when you're changing gears. You do have to anticipate going up hills a little bit, because it does back off when you change gears, so you lose a little bit of momentum if you're going up a steep hill. Integrated lock, slight disappointment in that the lock doesn't have a attachment for an extra chain, which means that if you want to chain it to an obstacle, you will have to get a separate lock. There are some minor disappointments. I think lock-on grips would be nice. These ones didn't move around a bit, but I imagine after a time it would. The rear gearing, they've pretty much done the same as what they've had on the e-city, e-urban, and put a reasonably cheap derailleur on. For this sort of bike, now that they've got a mid-drive, I'd really like to see a rear hub drive, and the reasons for that is maintenance, less adjustment, and they don't get bashed quite so much. These ones, if anything, if your bike falls over or anything, they might get bent. And the other nice thing about a hub is that you can shift gears when you're standing still. So when you pulled up at the traffic lights because you had to stop suddenly or whatever, or you just forgot, you can still shift gear. That would be nice. Otherwise, it's a very nicely spec'd out bike. The saddle is comfortable, it's nice and soft and wide, and with that suspension post is pretty comfortable. So all up, I'd say this is a really great bike. I think it's a huge step ahead from, in sophistication and usability from the e-City. So I say well done, Smartmotion.